WNOV family, this is Will Martin, and you're listening to The Difference. It is a good Friday. It's gorgeous out here, and we've got a really wonderful guest in Gideon Verdin,
How you doing?
is you are Milwaukee County, the northern Milwaukee County reporter with TMJ4.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
I appreciate being here.
And I've seen firsthand people are referring to you as their reporter. So
this is true.
Okay. Right.
Very proud to represent the community.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think we got the video here. Okay, so let me just tell people this before we run this video. I'll give you a couple of seconds to get yourself together, right? So if you are listening to the show on AM or FM, that is awesome. But if you are not seeing the show, you are missing half the show. And so right now we're going to, you can actually watch the show live on YouTube or Facebook. You can do that by just Googling or searching for WNOV live, and the show is on, and you can see it firsthand. But we're just going to run a quick ad that TMJ4 has done, just introducing you and your role, all right, as well. So take it away, Jermaine.
There's so many great things happening in Milwaukee that never make the news. I should know. I grew up right here in the Harambe neighborhood. I'm your reporter, Gideon Verdin, TMJ4 News. I'm working to shine a light on people you don't always hear from and give them a voice. Help me tell the stories in this community that are most important to you. Reach out to me on social media or gideon.verdin@tmj4.com.
Okay, well, so you talk about giving people a voice, and so it's great that while you're telling other people's stories, I understand this is your first time actually coming in to WNOV to have your own story told.
This is true. Never been here to tell my story.
Well, there you go. Jermaine, I'm always bringing other people in here, right? That's why it's the difference, right?
Exactly.
That's exactly
Can,
why it's the difference.
Can I say something cool about that commercial? What's really cool about it is that porch I'm jumping off of in the front. That's the house I grew up in.
Really?
I used to break dance on that porch. That's my family's home. And then in the second part, I didn't realize this till later, on 27th and State.
Okay.
Right behind me, there was an old hospital, community hospital, where I was born.
Wow.
My dad brought that to my attention. I had no clue. That's the hospital I was born behind me, which is no longer a hospital.
Right.
So they did a really good job of kind of capturing, my roots here in Milwaukee. I believe so, yeah.
Family hospital.
Yeah. No, that is great. That is absolutely wonderful. I just like the fact that I'm the first one to bring you on, So
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Everybody else is referring to you as their reporter, and it's correct. But I'm just saying this is the first time you've been on WNOV. So.
Yeah. And I'm eager to tell my story. I think,
beautiful.
It's time.
Well, let's get to getting. All right. So let's talk about you grew up here.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about now people who are watching got a chance to at least see that house.
Mm-hmm.
What kept you here?
Oh, man. My family has a long root in education and activism here in Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee. I think it's one of the greatest cities in the country. And I travel a lot, so that helped me kind of get that bug out of myself of just getting away. But I always love coming back here. I love the people here. I think there's no shortage of good people trying to make a difference. Mm-hmm. I've always had a passion in television and video, and an opportunity arose, and I just jumped at it.
Beautiful. So, you went to college very close to home as well.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
Almost didn't go to college. I want to thank Anne Marie Smith, a family friend who found out I wasn't going to college and says, "Nuh-uh, you going." And so she made some calls to the, administrative recruiting office and got me in. And I was one of those kids who was like, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a year off. And she wasn't having it. And, she wasn't blood. She was just a family friend who really saw something in me. So I went to college. I pursued a degree in television and music production. And, it was nice to be only an hour away so I can come back home. And during that time, I had my daughter. And so I got a good family support. And, I owe all my success and just everything to my mom and dad because they kind of set me up.
Okay, wait, back this up. when did you decide that you weren't going to college, or did you just think I'm putting this off?
I was putting it off. It wasn't a priority for me. I wasn't interested. I was one of those kids who was just really confused about what he wanted to do
Yeah.
after high school. I didn't always do well academically. I was
Okay.
more of a creative, outgoing, student organization kind of kid, way
Yeah.
more focused on extracurricular than my studies.
Okay.
And so it wasn't something I could see myself doing.
Wow. So, all right. Now, see, now you got me in this whole other realm, because I think there are a lot of our kids who maybe fit that
Hmm.
description, right?
Yeah.
So, you go from, hey, I don't have a plan, to somebody telling you, oh, this is the plan.
Yeah.
You will be going. What caused you to be able to get through that period?
Just kind of stepping out on faith. And again, my parents, my dad brought me to school with $100 in his, to give me to just get started, and
Yeah.
I don't know. A part of me wanted to make them both proud because they went to school, they went to college, and but the other part is just like exploring who I really wanted to be because I had no clue.
Okay.
And college is a place where you can do that, right? You can.
Yeah.
I spent the first couple of years undecided before I even knew what I was going to do. Just kind of feeling around, and so it was just something where I had to really find the courage in myself to step out on faith, to face my fears, to step out the box and just start to be independent. And I think for every young person, that's probably a struggle when it's time to get out the nest and start to make your own way.
Wow. So you said television production was your major?
Yeah, TV, music production, and then a minor in arts management.
Wow. So did you know going into this major that you were going to one day work with
No.
the station, or
No, I had no interest in being on television. I had no interest in television news. My interest was video. So my mother's a photographer. My dad's an educator. My mom got me a camera when I was about 8 years old, a still camera, and I just would play with it all the time. And then as a teen, my dad brought me home one of those big VHS recorders, and so I would just record everything. Okay,
Wow.
just everything I could, and I had a fascination with the news. I didn't know what it was about, but this is gonna sound weird. Every big news story, I would run to Walgreens, grab a VHS tape, pop it in, and record the news story. And I just had like an interest in big news stories. And I didn't want to be on TV. I didn't want to be a cameraman. I just like big news stories. So I have all these archives of like the Rodney King riots, fires, different things that were happening, OJ trials, all this stuff that I was just interested in as a young person on VHS tape. And I think I was kind of preparing myself subconsciously for
Wow.
whatever was happening in the future. And when I got to school, I started a radio show. So my
Okay.
first real professional entry into media was radio. I had a morning jazz show and a weekend hip hop show.
Okay. Wait. A morning jazz show. That's not quite blues, but it's not quite blues, but but Debo, I think that's a fair opener, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that is great.
That's
So
a qualifier.
okay, all right,
That's a qualifier.
not as good as the blues, apparently.
Right.
Okay, all right. So you started with that.
Yeah.
What got you to decide, that you would eventually end up in broadcast? When does this change happen?
Okay, so I always tell people to apply for your dream job at least once a year because
Okay.
the worst they could say is no. I saw an opportunity and an opening for an editor. This was after school. After school was done, I actually started as a television producer for a company called Strive Media. They used to produce a show called Gumbo Television.
Yeah.
Shout out to Matthew Johnson. He's one of my mentors and gave me a lot of advice, guidance, leadership roles. So I was a producer for Gumbo, and we produced a show on the Black Family Channel, Emmy award-winning show by the record, and that's when I got to work with young people, teach them video production, teach them how to navigate, how to write stories, how to edit. And I worked there for about 5 or 6 years. That shut down, and I got this daughter. I got to find some work, and so I started thinking a little bigger than I would normally. And that's when I came across an opportunity to work as an editor for Wtmj4, and so I applied. It was really tough. At the time, there was the Azana spa shooting.
Okay.
And if anybody knows in news, that was huge. And they were too busy to even see me. But I kept calling. Week after week, I would call and say, hey, did you get my application? Hey, They're like, we're a little too busy right now with this big story, but I kept calling. There was a woman, her name is Elise Grant. She has been in the business for 30 plus years. She saw my determination. She decided to set up an interview with me. I had no experience in television news, which is something that's very rare for somebody to get in that position. You have to have some experience. But she saw my determination. She saw my grit. She gave me an interview. I'd like to say I knocked her socks off in the interview, but she also gave me a chance to edit something for her.
Okay.
And she got, while she was instructing me to do this edit, she got called to something else. And she was like, hold on, I'll be back. By the time she was back, I finished the edit. At first, she was a little upset. I didn't tell you to do that. I didn't tell you to go there. But then it sunk into her that this kid don't need direction.
Uh,
He can get it done without oversight,
Right.
without, he's a self-starter.
you didn't need the step by step.
Yes.
You got the motivation to go
Yes.
ahead and do that.
And her being there 36 years, I think she just saw something in me and gave me an opportunity. I'm eternally grateful to her. She retired now. She's from Milwaukee. She was one of those people who really cared about the quality of news that went out there, really watched everything with a fine comb, and instilled in me a lot of the values I have when it comes to news and television and putting out a quality
Okay.
product.
So Gideon, already, you've already had two places in your life where you needed something to happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a woman that steps up and makes the way, right,
Yeah.
for you. And it's an individual person who
Yeah.
ends up making the thing happen for you, right?
Yeah.
So, just talk about, it sounds like, there have been really key people in your life who have opened doors when you needed them to be opened.
Yeah. I never thought about it like that, but yeah, women have always played an important role in my life, starting with my mother. But I think the first step is to understand that on the other side of your fear are your greatest accomplishments. So the things you're scared of that are holding you back, if you can get through it, there might be something really big in your life. And I learned that at a young age, and I get anxiety, I get stressed, I get fearful, but I push through it. And I've
Yeah.
learned it's a part of the process. If I'm not getting anxiety, if I'm not afraid, something's not right. And, if you can balance that, push through, something great could be on the other side of it. And that's it.
Yeah.
I think it starts with you being willing to step out of your comfort zone, try something new, follow the things you're passionate about, and who knows what can happen for you.
Wow. Now, you've mentioned your daughter.
Yes,
Okay.
my amazing
And,
daughter.
yeah. Now, we've talked a little bit about this earlier, but now, where in the sequence? It sounded like she's earlier on as you're making a decision about college and all the rest of that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it was my sophomore year in college.
okay, all right.
Something like that.
So when you get out of college, or actually while you're in college,
Mhm.
you got another person to
No, it's a big load of pressure.
yeah.
Changed my life. Changed my direction. Changed my focus. Changed my determination. She's my why. She's
Okay.
why I work so hard. She's why I try to be the best that I can to kind of leave her something that she can build off of. She's amazing, 19-year-old woman who's pursuing her dreams and passions now, and we're so much alike that she's pretty much in the same place I was when I was 19, unsure
Yeah,
about
exactly.
what I want to do with life.
This
And
was
so,
just what we had talked about,
Mhm.
before we got started, about where she's at, and I hadn't heard your part of the story in terms of where you were at then.
Mhm.
So yeah, so hopefully hers turns out
yeah, that's why I have
just
a
as
lot of
beautiful.
patience for her. You try to want your kids to be better than you, and
Mhm.
sometimes you want them to follow your journey. But what I've learned is, growing up, you try to protect your kids from everything. You try to protect them from hitting their head on the coffee table. You just try to be there. And when they turn 18, you think you've done it. You've got them there, but really it all starts over. And now you're parenting them from an adult perspective. And so I try to push her, but also understand that I was the same way.
Mhm.
I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest parts of parenting also is realizing that they're going to make their own journey. They're going to make their own path. It might not be the one you have for them,
Yeah.
but it's theirs. And if you give them the tools, they should be okay.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you've spent. I think you told me you're 44.
Yes.
And also, I think that's fine for for us to talk about a little
Yeah,
bit.
because
So
40 is the new 20.
oh, there you go. Okay, all right. Well, I don't know what 50 is then, but looking around, as you think about the community you were born in, and what you see today, what's different about the Milwaukee of today than the Milwaukee that you were born into, grew up in.
I think there's more opportunity for people of color. I think there's more leadership, people of color in leadership. You can look at the city hall,
Yeah.
and see some people who I went to school with are now leaders and taking a stake in their community. Um, I just see a lot of growth.
Okay.
When I say Milwaukee is the best city in the country, I mean it because, of course, everything we have to offer. And, we have a lot of bad things too and a lot of negative stigmas. But when it comes to the diversity, the communities, the amount of people who really care, and I've traveled all over the country. I just see Milwaukee as a unique, growing place.
Mhm.
We've come from so much hardship, so much trauma. Um, that on the other side of that is something great, and it's happening now. You can see it on King Drive.
Mhm.
The development that's happening there after years and decades of waiting and people pleading for do something with King Drive. Well, now we have leaders that are making steps. We have young um, young developers that are
Mhm.
developing affordable homes on King Drive
Yeah.
and beautifying the community. And so,
Yeah, I just had Michael here,
yeah,
and he was talking
super
about some of the
impressive guy.
developments he's doing. And
I've done a story on
yeah,
him too as well, and
okay.
followed him through the new development on King
I'm
Drive.
gonna have
And
to start
so
watching who you interview just
you
so I
do,
get him as
man.
well. But although we seem to be getting there anyway.
Yeah, it makes me proud. I know we still have a lot
Yeah.
of challenges. We still have decades of institutional racism, decades of segregation that we're dealing with. But I see, maybe I'm just optimist. Most people know me, and I try to see the positive in everything.
Mhm.
But I see potential for really positive growth. I see our population kind of thriving and working to make Milwaukee better, and that makes me optimistic for a better future.
Yeah, no, that is great. I know I'm going to check in with Jermaine here because before I get into something, I know we might be getting close. Okay. All right. Because I've got some things I want to really ask you about, and I want to make
Sure,
sure we don't get interrupted by a break. So
sure.
Jermaine's going to take us out right now. And the UNLV family, come on right on back.
The passing of a loved one is emotional enough without adding the stress of funeral arrangements. By pre-planning, you receive the desires of your heart while taking away the burden from your family. It also saves you money, providing the dignity and respect your memory deserves. And there are times when life ends unexpectedly. Please know that the New Pitts Mortuary is here to lend a helping, caring hand anytime, day or night. We are the New Pitts Mortuary.
right, WNOV family, we are back from the break, and I have got the reporter here for us, Gideon Verdin, and
Thank you.
he is the Northern Milwaukee reporter for TMJ4.
Yes, sir.
So our hometown news.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you about, you talked to me regarding how different the news is in the way that you've TMJ4 has structured it.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of lay that out for folks.
Yeah. So if you've been watching the news, which hopefully you have, it's kind of a different feel, a different look for it. TMJ4 has kind of launched a new strategy to tap into the community's needs specifically. So you'll see we have a Sheboygan County reporter, Racine reporter, Kenosha reporter. I'm your Northern Milwaukee County reporter, and the strategy basically is hopeful to get people in those communities to feel like they have someone who represents
Yeah.
those needs that are specific to their neighborhood.
But you guys put a little twist on this that's different than traditional reporting. You actually got people who are from those communities.
Yes. So, what we consider homegrown talent, people who are from here rather than traditionally flying someone in from another city and then they have to spend years or months trying to understand the lay of the land, meet new people. Ideally, they want to bring in people who are from this community who understand the intricacies and the delicate things that we deal with on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis.
Right. Well, no, because it's so interesting because you get somebody who comes in and it's a job.
It is.
Right. They're new to the community. It's the best community ever until they get a job to the next community.
Yep.
And then that's the best community ever.
Yeah,
as opposed to somebody who grew up here and understands us.
Yeah, it happens a lot, where a reporter will come in, people get used to them, and now they're gone,
Right.
because of, our short contracts or whatever. But I think it's become effective. When I'm out in the community, people know me, they've seen me,
Yeah.
they trust me. And I like to think I'm able to get in certain places that some people can't, and
Yeah.
also talk to some people that other people have trouble getting to. And because I've grew up in this community and I've worked in this community from the nonprofit world to the education world to, a little bit of everything, the music entertainment world, that I can pull people that aren't traditionally heard, and I can tap into community gems that don't often get a light.
Yeah.
And so, I get a lot of support from my station, my bosses, and everyone there because they understand that I know this community
Mhm.
and I know what is important to us.
Okay. Well, what's interesting to me is this is a very different model.
Yeah.
You said it's only been in place since?
It's been in place about a year now.
Okay.
And it's very unique to our station, and it's kind of a test, but our station is kind of committed to being the voices of these
Yeah.
communities and allowing these voices a chance to amplify their message and their issues and concerns. And for me, part of being a journalist is being an advocate for the community I represent. So when I go into a story, whether it's a really sad story about someone who's recently, been killed tragically, or a nonprofit that's doing something really positive in the community,
Yeah.
I come in with an advocate mind first. How can I help? And, for me, that's the best part of my job, being able to help people.
No, I think it's incredible because I don't know that the general public thinks of reporters coming and that their job is how to advocate for me or how to help tell my story.
Yeah.
I think
As I mentioned
sometimes
to you,
it's adversarial.
it's one of the first things you learn in journalism.
Yeah.
And it's also one of the things that most people forget, is that our job is to be advocates first.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, you can build and tell stories. But first and foremost is to help the people in the community who we represent.
Okay. So far, again, you start off, you decide that you're not ready for college. Someone decides you are, and you go and you prove them right by getting that done. You have a beautiful daughter. In the midst of all that, you figure out how to make that work, right? You get a degree in, you talked about television production.
Yeah.
And again, so far, it's not like I'm going to be a reporter. So
Yeah.
how do you end up, we
Okay.
before the break, we talked about you got into TMJ because
Yeah.
you just kept calling, right?
Yeah.
And somebody took the chance on you
Yeah.
to get you in. How do you go from being an editor to then actually now being a reporter?
So as an editor, it's really an interesting job because you get first eyes on video before anybody does. Comes into the system, you look at it, and you get to decide what goes on TV or cutting the video. So a very important job. It's very important. And I spent 5 years doing that, and I enjoyed it very much. But if anybody knows me, I get bored sometimes, and I want a new challenge. And so a photojournalist opportunity arose at the station, and because I always loved video, cameras, still videos and motion video, I just gave it a shot.
Okay.
Andrew Triplett, he's
Yeah.
a community staple. He worked at TMJ as a cameraman for a long time. He was one of my mentors who helped push me into that role. So I did that for a while. And as a photojournalist, you're in the community, you bring your camera up, you're telling stories, you're knocking on the doors of people who just lost people. It's a really interesting job. Everything from watching the tigers eat at the zoo behind the scenes to, the doom and gloom stuff that you have to cover. It's a wide variety of stuff. That was great. I was having a good time. But on my 6th year, I started to feel a little like I could do more, and that and as a photojournalist, you follow a reporter. The reporter takes the lead on the story, and
Yeah.
you kind of just are there to support. Well, I was getting on scenes and starting to feel like I could tell these stories just as good.
Yeah.
I could identify people who could be the voices for these stories. And under it all, I've always loved to write. I've always loved to write. Writing is my first passion, and it's
Okay.
something I kind of had been suppressing because of all this other technological stuff. So I felt it as an opportunity to tap back into something I love, which was writing. I used to write music, used to write poetry, short stories, all of that.
Yeah.
Got creative writing awards and stuff as a young person growing up. So that was something that really attracted me to the reporter role. And I had a couple, one mainly Carol Meekins. She
Okay.
used to always tell me in the building, you should be a reporter.
Yeah.
You the way you speak, the way you help out on these stories, the contributions you make, you should be a reporter. And I used to kind of laugh at it because I like being behind the scenes, coming in my sweats and joggers, not having to shave and still being able to tell a story, and just be like that silent voice in it all. But she pushed me, and another
Okay, wait.
reporter.
This is the third woman who's stepping in on your career now here,
That's
man.
true, man.
The
That's
third
true.
woman who's like got a
true.
plan for you.
And then a couple other reporters, females, Sarah McGrew and Andrea Williams, they just every day were like, consider this, that I know you're interested in, consider it. And then I decided one day on a story that I was going to make my own story as a photojournalist. So there was a story about an African-American elderly woman on Village Street who was hit in a hit and run.
Oh.
And she lost her life. And it hit me. We talked to the family. The reporter did her version. And then in my extra time, I did my version. And that was the story I pitched to my bosses to say, take a look at this. Something I'm trying. So I fronted the story, which means get in front of the camera, introduce it. I wrote the story. I tracked the story, the voiceover, and then I edited the story, the whole thing myself.
Yeah.
And they were impressed. They liked the story. They liked the angle I took on it. They liked the writing. And that was all I needed to get the shot. And I think it's a bit of the hard work and the contributions I've made behind the scenes, but also just people believing in me and giving me a shot, and me stepping out again out of my comfort zone to try something that again I wasn't really interested in doing, but I had a passion for.
Yeah.
And then the rest is kind of history.
Wow. So you've played so many different roles now in this, and it seems to me that you've been telling stories all the time, whether it was editing the video, or it's actually then being the photojournalist. You're taking aspects of the story. Now you get to do you have a crew that comes with you, or are you doing your own photojournalism as well?
So I'm a one-man show. Everything you see,
so now
I
everything gets added up that you've learned to do.
All those
You're now
skills.
doing all that.
Yep.
And packaging it yourself.
Yep. All those skills are coming into play. I write my own stories. I find my own stories. I track my own stories. I shoot my own stories. I edit my own stories. Every now and then I'll get a photojournalist that may be available to help me out for certain stories, but I am what they call a multimedia journalist. I do it all myself. And for me, It's great because I love to multitask. I work well under pressure, and I love to move at my own pace. And that was one of the other things was frustrating me as a photojournalist is I have to wait for someone else to kind of get their stuff together before I can execute my
Hmm.
job. And so this way, I'm responsible for turning my stories every day solely.
Yeah. Well, and as you do that, it sounds like just naturally you've accumulated all of these areas of expertise,
Yeah,
and now that's actually
absolutely.
paying off for you. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's great, man. I always say working as a journalist is like being in a film festival every day. You don't know what you're gonna get. When you get there, you get a story, and then you have to turn it by 5 o'clock.
Wow.
You have to get on the grind, make some phone calls, talk to people, pull that camera out, start shooting, and just gather content to tell a story. And that's every single day. And that's part of the reason why I love the field is because you just don't know what you're going to get. Every day
Yeah.
is different. And then for me, I leave feeling fulfilled every day. I leave feeling like I've accomplished something amazing. I leave feeling like I've been a part of television magic. They always say TV magic. How's it get on TV so fast? How'd you guys do that? That's every day for me.
Yeah. So okay. So what is your favorite story that you've gotten a chance to tell?
I don't want to sound cocky,
Okay. All right.
but in all honesty, my last story is my favorite.
Okay.
I really try to make
Is
every
your last
story
story always your favorite?
always.
Okay.
Because I try to make every story better than the last. I try to do something different. I try to approach it differently and tell it differently. So I really love them all. Sometimes I stay up till 3 in the morning watching my own stories. But just because I want to get better, and two, I love the stories. And so my last 3 to 5 stories are really amazing. I just did a story on the Breda Health Clinic. It's a clinic on 16th Street that offers free health and medical services to uninsured individuals in Milwaukee. It's
Okay.
like a hidden gem in the basement of the Cross Lutheran Church. And you go down there and they're just doing amazing things for healthcare for people who are uninsured.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a story on them. I loved working with them. That was yesterday. And then I just did a story on 4 teens that got accepted into Spelman
Right.
and Howard. By the way, I just found out they got accepted into Howard as well. They go to Rufus King High School, and I got to tell their story. And it's stories like that
You were telling
I
me
really want to
that
do.
story is being picked up.
Yep, it's been picked up nationally by People's Magazine and a couple other national publications. Our national affiliate Scripps
Okay.
is also airing it. And so just giving those young girls a light is awesome. I love telling NPS stories because I'm an NPS kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I know there's a lot of negativity around NPS in the news, and I just like to be that voice of positivity because these young people are doing amazing things in the
Yeah.
school system that often go overlooked. Just did an awesome story about an organization called A Cry for Help, who opened a nonprofit crisis center on 41st and Capitol. A young lady in Milwaukee who's basically, doing this all on her own and really committed to helping other people in crisis. And so, my last story is my best story, man. I love all the work I'm doing, and I'm really pushing myself every story to do it better.
Wow. Okay. Well, then, what is most surprising to you, that you run in? What was something that you did not know about?
In terms of, what do you mean? In terms of like the stories I'm telling,
Yeah,
or
just what you've run into. What do you think, has been the most surprising to you so far?
the job is so filled with different things. Every day is super interesting. You know, I guess I'm always surprised with how much I can do with the time I have.
Okay.
I'm always surprised with like my coworkers too. We do like amazing stuff in a little bit of time.
Yeah.
One of the things I realized when I started working in television was how much you could do in 1 minute, how much you can actually accomplish in 60 seconds if you put your mind to it, if you get it done. The stuff that goes on behind the scene before television airs is amazing.
Yeah.
When we need to pivot or we need to change and it's about to hit air and you can get it done. So I'm always surprised with how fast I can gather these stories and turn them into something that's ready for TV. So that's one thing that really sticks out to me. I'm always surprised by the courage people have when it's time of trauma or crisis. You go up to someone's house. I always say I meet people usually at the best day of their life or the worst day of their life, unfortunately. Either something really great happened in their life and now I'm there to cover it, or something really terrible happened. And I'm always impressed by the courage of people to speak to me when they've lost a loved one. because I don't know if I'd have that courage.
Yeah.
I'd probably slam the door in front of a journalist because I'm doing my own grieving. So the courage they have to share their stories when they've lost a loved one or a loved one is missing, it's just always mind blowing to me. And then the courage they have to forgive when someone has taken someone so precious, a loved one, and then they go on camera and say, "I forgive them." I think that's just like, it always blows my mind because I don't know if I have that strength to forgive someone who just, took my brother away from me. And so that's something that always sticks with me.
Wow. We talk about, you said MPS, and I think about just generally all the kids we have out here in our community. So much talent, but there's some things, there are building blocks that were in your path as well. You got a chance to get into college and to get into TV production. I assume in that was editing part of
Yeah,
what you did there. So you got a chance
absolutely.
at that building block, and then the work that you did with Strive
hmm
and getting a chance. And I would assume that got you a chance to actually tell some of the stories. So some
Yeah,
of the work that was there
absolutely.
is now paying off today in terms of your approach, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do we make sure that young people in this community today, maybe it's your daughter, maybe
Mhm.
it's all the other 19-year-olds who are out here, how do we make sure that they are having those building block moments,
Yeah,
those opportunities, so that they can be the next
yeah.
northern Milwaukee reporter?
I think it's good parenting, mentorship, finding a mentor, and utilizing some of these organizations that are already doing great things. Parents come to me all the time and say they have a troubled teen. How can I get them help? I always recommend organizations like True School, Running Rebels, organizations that are offering young people leadership opportunities, activism opportunities, education, entrepreneur opportunities. They are there, but we got to support them. It's oftentimes we wait until an organization has closed and then we're like,
Mm-hmm.
man, we should have just. No, we got to support them now where they're there. Like Victor Barnett at Running Rebels, he's doing amazing things with young people. He's raised up some really amazing young people, and we just got to continue
Yeah.
to push our young people towards these organizations, tap into them and support them. Running Rebels has a media department. They have an audio video department. Same with
Yeah.
True School. So, as parents or mentors, pushing our kids into the right direction, getting them exposed to these opportunities early and showing them that there is a way.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do tours at TMJ where young people
Okay.
can come through with their parents and see what it's like behind the scenes of a television station. I worked with Shannon Sims once on a youth journalism program where we got young people into the station to put together a newscast on their own, get those kids out of bed and get them into those opportunities, push them, because once they see it, they can believe it, that they
Yeah.
could possibly be in those seats and well. And it's so important. It's so important when it comes to television news and making sure the stories that you want as a community are told, that we get people of this community in those seats,
Mm-hmm.
those behind the scenes seats, those producers, executive producers, directors that can make those decisions, that are in that newsroom when these stories come up and can say, this matters. The community cares about this.
So, I'm almost afraid to ask you this question.
Go ahead.
So, what's next? But I really should wait to see which woman is going to step up and tell you which.
Man, that's so interesting. I'm be thinking about that a
Yeah,
lot.
I mean, it's kind of just been laid out here. But what do you think is next for your career? It just seems like everything has built up to where you are today. And so, what's next for you?
I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun. So
Okay.
everybody asks me how's it going, and I'm just having fun. And when I'm having fun, I'm comfortable and I thrive. So when I stop having fun, we'll know something's coming next. But I know it's going to be something in video. I want to travel more, so
Okay.
I see myself traveling and documenting my travels. doing some like ethnographic documentaries, maybe longer form stories. But as a television news journalist, I'm also finding myself dipping into the investigative realm of things.
Okay.
I've been covering a lot of unsolved murders, some missing children, and that takes a little more research and investigative, skills that I'm starting to gain as well and starting to find a little interest in. And so, I'm not quite sure. I'm really not. I know this. It's going to include video or photo, and it's going to include a bit of travel, and I'm going to have some fun doing it because
Okay.
fun is very important to me. Like, it's a part of everything I do, whether it's money involved or not. I got to be having some fun doing
So
it.
it sounds like storytelling's in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
Just don't know what it is yet. So now, when we think about your field, you've talked a lot about technology,
Yeah.
right? And things are changing so rapidly about how we consume news,
Yeah.
how we consume entertainment,
Yeah.
as well. What was 3 channels and PBS is certainly not that anymore. And you can go and look at stories of yours on YouTube, on other places
Yeah.
online, etc. Do you see a day where more of your stories might be going direct to online, or what do you think the
It's
future
here.
of the
It's
news
here.
is?
It's here. The future's here.
Okay.
I get just as much, if not more, exposure and viewership posting my videos on Facebook and TikTok than I do on television.
Really?
Yeah. And, even talking to people, do you watch the news? A lot of people tell you they don't.
Yeah.
And they tell you why they don't. But they're on social media and they're getting their news from social media. They're getting news from television.
Yeah.
And these devices are giving you everything. And so, yeah, I think it's here. I think it's already here. And as a news station, organizations across the country, we realize it's here, and we're trying to tap into those social media avenues and be present on those platforms, whether it's our streaming platform where we replay a lot of the stories on the TMJ4 streaming app,
Yeah.
or it's on TikTok where you can see instantly how many people are viewing. You can get comments back. I mean, if you think about it, that's better than television, because if my story goes on TV, I can't get instant feedback from the viewer. If I put it on TikTok, comments right away. Oh, I know another story you should follow
On
up on.
TikTok. Well, how do you think that's all going to turn out then?
I don't think it's going nowhere. I'm just optimistic. I think I was saying this in the morning meeting, and I was thinking about it last night, but data's the new oil. It's so valuable, the data that these apps are collecting. So I think some millionaire, billionaire will probably grab it and continue to collect all of our data. But, if it's not TikTok, it's another, and then we'll move on and we'll adapt. But the fact of the matter is, people are consuming and digesting news differently, and the audience is changing.
Well, it's even changing for radio. I mean, where you started, right? So, for us, we have lots of our audience that will listen, broadcast, right? 860 AM, 106.5 FM. But they'll also now, we have a smaller amount of our audience that will actually check out the streaming.
Yeah.
But then we've got folks that will come back who maybe missed the show. And so you are more than welcome to post our show, right?
Absolutely.
So that people can get a chance to hear more about the guy who's going out and interviewing everybody else.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win for us on the media side, because now we have more avenues to push our stories out. And so the key is, as a business, adapting, finding ways to adapt, not being so stuck in the old model, and understanding like this is how people are getting their information.
Yeah. So do you, as a reporter, do you, as a part of a prominent station here, do you all have conversations about what the future of the news is here?
All the time.
Really?
All the time. We have a whole digital department that, tackles a lot of those digital needs, but I think it's on our mind all the time. Even, some of our quarterly meetings or corporate meetings, it's a big conversation on how people are, not only what kind of people are watching the news these days, but how they're watching the news and how they're getting it.
Yeah.
Even the audience is changing,
Oh, how so?
Well, I know that African American women are one of the top viewers in television news, and most people probably don't know that.
Wow.
And traditionally, it probably wasn't so.
Mm-hmm.
And so that demographic was previously ignored somewhat. And
Mm-hmm.
so now that the surveys are out there and people can see, Black people consume news too,
Yeah.
in a big way.
Yeah,
You know?
you mentioned earlier that when you talk to people in the community, and the North Side,
Yeah.
what do people, what do people? Oh, well, see, again, I'm going to have to wait
It's all right.
because it's time for
This is a good
another
one.
break.
This is a good question coming.
It's coming. It's coming. All right, right after this break.
All right.
What's the difference between me and you?
Hey, WNOV family, we are coming to the last minutes of this interview, and I knew this was going to go by fast. So, my first question for you, we're going to talk about active listening
Mm-hmm.
after this question. So,
Gotcha.
remind me if I forget this because I don't want to miss it. But
All right.
the first thing I wanted to ask you is you mentioned earlier in the interview that you hear from people in the community why they don't watch the news, and I'm
Yeah.
intrigued to know what the reason is.
Well, I mean, honestly, the undercurrent theme, continuous theme is that it's too negative.
Yeah.
That the first 15 minutes are just too negative. And it's a challenge, as a journalist because you're trying to tell stories that matter in the community. So, like, one of the ways our station tries to attack this idea is we have a show called Milwaukee Tonight. It
Yeah.
comes on 6:30 every day, and it's all positive news the whole hour. It's all really good stuff that's happening in the community. And then the embedded reporters that are working in different geographic areas, they're kind of sprinkled through every show
Okay.
to kind of give it some balance. But I think what the viewers have to understand is, the stories about nonprofits that are doing great things in the community or an organization or young people that are thriving are sometimes just as important as some of the tragic things we see in our
Yeah.
community that the community needs to be aware of. And I know that's hard because you don't want to put that trauma into your life. But if you live in a neighborhood where a young woman is shot in broad daylight, you should know that's happening.
Right.
You should know this is a problem. And so it's a constant balance of, the good stories and the bad, and
Mhm.
trying to balance what it is the community needs to know, what's going to help them better their community.
So I understand that active listening
Yeah.
is a way for the folks in the community to
Yeah.
actually be a part of driving the news in a more positive direction or in a more unique direction
Yeah.
than maybe they've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a kind of a part of way that we do business now is, if someone sends me a story, I'm actively pursuing and actively listening in order to tell that story. So every email that comes through, I look at and try to respond to every one of them. And it's a part of our duty as a journalist to listen to our community
Yeah.
and then try to tell those stories. I'm going on an active listening story right after this
Okay.
about a political organization that littered Oak Leaf Trail with a bunch of political ads.
Wow.
And just left them there. And then when they came and tore them down, it creates a hazard for our Oak Leaf Trail. Now, it
Mhm.
seems like something, some people may not be interested in, but other people are.
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of balance that and tell those stories as well. And so I'm literally going to this next story because someone emailed me their concern. One individual,
Yeah.
he's just a citizen who said, I don't think this is good for our trails, our nature, our community.
Mhm.
Why is this happening? And then digging in a little deeper, there's laws against political ads being posted after the election.
Yeah.
and littering and picking those up too. So it's something it wasn't on my radar. In fact, it wasn't something I was even interested in. But as an active listener, I see this viewer's concern and I'm going to go address it.
Well, so this is really a way, and we were talking before this about the future of news.
Yeah.
So this is really a way for people who are consuming the news to now actually be able to help in some ways direct the news, right?
Yes.
To identify for you, these are things we care about that you wouldn't have known otherwise in the old days.
That's very true. I mean, I'm only good as the community who informs me of what it is that's important. So I know what's important to me, but I'm actively listening to other viewpoints, other people's walks of life to find out what's interesting to them or what matters to them. And so, yeah, it is. It kind of brings the viewer in as a part of the process.
Yeah. So given where we're at today, what kinds of stories are fair game? What can people contact you about? What should they be recommending to you?
I'm open for everything. I just got a woman who hit me up about her son who was denied heart surgery. I'm open. I'm open to whatever concern you have, whether it's positive or not. My realm is the northern Milwaukee County area, so I would prefer something in that geographic location.
And if not, there are other local
Yeah.
reporters.
If not, I'll get you to our South Side reporter or our downtown reporter.
Yeah.
But whatever matters, whatever you feel is newsworthy.
Yeah.
And I think that is what differentiates us from other stations.
Wow.
Is we're listening, we're following up, and we're here for the community.
Wow. Well, I'm listening too, and I hear that music coming, man. I know that it's 1 hour in, and so Gideon Verdin, thank you so much.
Can I tell them the best way to reach me with stories?
Absolutely, please.
Email Gideon.Verdin@Wtmj4.com.
And you're on social media?
Yep, you can reach me there as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Gideon Verdin.
Thank you.
Peace out.